You're listening to the Time to Level Up podcast. I'm your host, business life coach Andrea Liebross. I help women in business commit to their own growth personally and professionally. Each week, I'll bring you strategies to help you think clearly, gain confidence, make your time productive, turn every obstacle into an opportunity, and finally overcome the overwhelm so that you can make money and manage life. Let's create a plan so you have a profitable business, successful career, and best of all, live with unapologetic ambition. Are you ready to drop the drama and figure out the how in order to reach your goals? You're in the right place. It's time to level up. Let's do this. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 100th episode of the Time to Level Up podcast. Now, I have recorded more than 100, probably 106, but way back in the day, in the beginning, I recorded 6 episodes with client story episodes that I just called bonus episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I've repurposed a few episodes and added something to them. Those don't count. So this is probably really episode 110. But for the record books, we are calling it episode 100. This is how Apple likes to talk about things. Although, interestingly enough, did you know that Apple has now done away with or discourages podcasters from using episode numbers? So it's become kind of hard for me to refer you back to old episodes. I can't just say, oh, go listen to episode 21, because you won't be able to find episode 21 unless you access it through my website. So for purposes of this episode, and because I am going to be referring back to a lot of old podcast episodes, I'm going to try my bestest, and it's not going to be perfect, I'll tell you that much, to refer to the title of an episode, not the episode number. But go search some of these terms in your podcast player, and you will probably find exactly what episode I am talking about if I don't give you the right title. So here is what we're going to talk about today on this 100th episode. First of all, I hope you're celebrating the 100th episode and you have your favorite beverage with you, whether that be coffee or water or Diet Coke or wine or an old fashioned, whatever it might be, because we're celebrating. This is truly a celebration. It has been a great opportunity for me in preparing for this episode to reflect on what it's been like to record 100 episodes. And I really want to share with you some of the lessons that I teach and how I've actually applied that same coaching that I give you to myself as I have produced the 100 episodes. There's had been a lot of self-coaching going on in order to produce and create. Let me just put this way. I create, I am not the producer. So I've had Stephanie as my producer for the first 80-ish episodes, and now Stacy is producing the episodes for me. So I'm not producing them. I misspoke. I am creating them. They are producing them. That's actually a lesson I learned. Producing is not something I want to do. So I am delegating it because it is not in my desire zone. So go look for the episode on desire zones, drudgery zones, disinterested, and distracted. So anyway, that's just a side note. So I'm going to give you today 25 things, 25 coaching tools, strategies, approaches, mindset or ways to think about things that I have had to use as I've worked through this podcast. So this really isn't about me rather. This episode. I want to help you see how some of this coaching can come into play. Okay. This is kind of a coaching in action episode. All right. That's how I want to celebrate this, because there's so much coaching that I've had to put into action in order to do this for you. And I also want to put a plug in here right now. What episodes have stood out for you? I really would love to know. Do you have a favorite episode? Is there something that you really have taken away from an episode that sticks with you on a daily basis, please reach out and share with me. You can direct message me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. You can send me a note at andrea@andrealiebross.com. Whatever it is, let me know. I want to know, what have your favorite episodes been? So let's dig in. Let's dig in. Now, I started out in preparing for this. My original thought was, okay, what are the 10 best Andrea isms that I could share with you? What are 10 things that my clients really say to me over and over again that have been impactful? But in trying to do that, I kind of morphed into thinking, you know what? I think it would be more helpful if I showed you how some of this coaching that I give you, I use on myself, and how it has helped me help you by creating these podcasts. So let's go. This might be an episode, my friends, that you want to take notes on, or that you want to go back and re-listen to. And it might be an episode that where you've had someone in your life where you say, oh my gosh, you really should listen to this podcast. And they kind of say, okay, but you think they never do. This might be the episode that you want to share with them, because they're probably going to see how impactful some of this work is. Okay. They're probably going to see that. And if you are someone who hasn't binged on all the episodes, which I don't blame you if you haven't, it also might be a reminder to go back and listen. Listen in from the beginning. Listen in to some of the great pieces of information, great thinking that have been shared on the podcast in the last 100 episodes, either by me or by my guests. All right, here we go. These are in no particular order, although I did try to create some sort of flow, but we're just going to see what happens. Number one, here's something I learned in creating 100 episodes, that recording a podcast each week is really an achievement that is fueled by a habit. Okay. So I've done some talking about the difference between achievements and habits. Okay. So there was an episode called How to Create a Habit. Okay. I've also done some episodes recently about moving through priorities and planning and trying to figure out, what are habits that might help you. So recording the podcast has become a habit that has fueled the achievement of having a continuously produced or recorded or out there in the world podcast. So think about that in your own world. Okay. What are habits that you have that might help fuel your achievement? That's number one. Second thing, along with getting into the habit of recording the podcast weekly, I have used one of my favorite tools, the Eisenhower Matrix, to guide this, because what I realized after about, I would say 10 episodes, is that it's not just about doing the recording. Okay. So if you're familiar with the Eisenhower Matrix, pull yours out. Or if you're not, go find my episode where I talk about it. It's probably in my episode where I talk about time. There's lots of episodes I talk about time, but episode number 4, I talk about time. And also, when I talk about creating some focus time in an episode called Belief or Focus Work, I talk about this. Delegating, I talk about this Eisenhower Matrix, the Delegating Effectively episode. It's not just about me doing the recording. I have got to plan for it. And I actually break the process up into pieces that I then do. I do the pieces. I don't do the whole thing in one big swoop. So when you use the Eisenhower Matrix, you decide, okay, what's urgent and what's important? Those are the things you do. What's not so urgent, but yet important? Those are the things that you plan. So I know that each week I have to record a podcast. But when I'm in that process of thinking about what I'm going to record, that's kind of the planning process. So I come up with the topic. That's number one. Maybe the next piece is doing the research to see if there's anything I want to add in to the podcast that comes from a different source. Number 3, I write an outline. Number 4, I record it. Number 5, I send it to my producer. And actually, number 0 is that with my producer, Stacy, at the beginning of the quarter, we have a meeting where we kind of map out what the topics are going to be for all the episodes. So do you see how all of those pieces have to be thought about ahead of time before I actually do them? And there is 0 way I'm going to be doing them all in one swoop. So that Eisenhower matrix, it's super important. And I really realized, going back to the other pieces of the Eisenhower matrix, where what can you delegate and what can you eliminate? I have delegated out the actual production. Like, I don't like doing that part. I'm not very good at it. Stacy's amazing at it and her team. Okay. I also eliminated using video. For a hot minute there, I had the thought, ooh, I should record every episode as a video. So there's a video component and an audio component. I eliminated that. I decided, no, I'm eliminating it. Maybe not forever, but it's a no for now. Again, Eisenhower matrix helped me think through that. That's number 2. Number 3, busy badge. Okay. I could not be wearing my busy badge and telling myself I was too busy to do this, because I had made a commitment to myself and to you to create a podcast and put a podcast out there each week. So I had to rip off the I'm too busy badge and realize that we all have the same 168 hours in a week, and decide how I was going to use those 168 hours in order to ensure that I recorded an episode. It became a priority, and the busy badge just wasn't helping. Number 4, as I have recorded all these episodes, I have realized that B- work that is turned in is way better than A+ work that is not turned in. Okay, that's one of my favorite things to think about, favorite self-coaching tools. B- work that's turned in is better than A+ work that is not turned in. Now, I will tell you that I often turn into Stacy a lot of B- work. Right? I could spend days re-recording these episodes, but I don't, because I figure whatever I give to you is better than giving you nothing. And if I waited for A+ all the time, I don't think we would be doing this, my friends, because I don't have the patience for that. And I think some of my best work actually is B- work, because I kind of just tell it like it is, or how it's coming out of my mouth. I mean, for this episode, I did prepare, but I am not as scripted, or as I did not write out as much as I usually do. So a lot of this, what's coming out today, is just going to be B- work, but hopefully it's giving you A+ value. Which leads me to number 5. The thought that we all have a manual on how things should go down, how relationships should work, what things should look like. But I had to really realize that my manual for what this podcast is supposed to be all about may not match your manual. It may not match my producer's manual. So there is no perfect way that this should go. We all have different manuals, and we just have to come to an agreement as to how we're going to coexist with different manuals. Just like you have a different manual about how your weekend should go than maybe your spouse does. Or your kids certainly have different manuals on what after school might look like than you do, or before school for that matter. So this concept about we all have different manuals for different situations is a real one. And it is one that came into play in recording these podcasts. Number 6, the coaching tool that results are evidence of your thoughts. This podcast will go the way I think it will go. If I think it's going to be an amazing episode, it's going to be an amazing episode. That will be the result. If I think it's not going to be such a great, amazing episode, then it won't be such a great, amazing episode. Okay. Our thoughts, our results rather, are truly, truly evidence of our thoughts. There are thoughts that hold us back from creating the results we want. There's an episode that's called Thoughts That Hold Us Back. There's an episode that's called, what do we do when we can't catch a break? That's a thought that holds us back. Like, I can never catch a break. Okay. I did an episode about imposter syndrome. That can be a thought that holds us back. Okay. And that can be something that totally impacts our results. Our results are evidence of thoughts. So when I'm recording this, I have to have thoughts that this is all going to be amazing, which leads me to number 7. How long are you willing to work at something? I had to ask myself, how long am I willing to work at perfecting my process for podcasts? Because I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. Okay. I've decided I'm willing to work for it as long as it takes. And as I work more and more at it, it evolves. And even though I think I might have nailed it at one point, I'm not necessarily nailing it. Okay. So I'm willing to work at it for as long as it takes. And it kind of then aligns with we experience what we expect. Okay. We experience what we expect. So when you are deciding, am I going to be intentional about something or am I just going to have expectations? The intentionality is way better even than the expectations. You really experience something the way you want to experience it when you are intentional. So there's an episode, intentionality versus expectations, which goes to the 8th point. The whole discussion about whether or not you're just interested in something versus being committed to it. Are you interested or are you committed? And then if you're committed, are you attached to the result? Are you attached to one specific result? My advice is to not be attached to the result because you probably are going to be disappointed. So there's an episode about commitment versus attachment. Go listen to that one. Really move from being just interested to committed, but don't get too attached. If I was attached as to how this all should be going down, I would be sorely disappointed. But I am committed to having it, to creating it. Okay. Which leads me to number 9, which is something I talk about in the episode titled Emotional Adulthood versus Emotional Adulthood and Taking Responsibility. I ultimately am responsible for what happens. There is no one else to blame. Okay. I cannot blame anyone else. Also, I have to be responsible as an adult for how I feel about things. I am not a child anymore. Okay. My brain has matured enough to know that I am the one that is ultimately responsible. I have to be in charge of my own emotions. I get to decide if this is going to be successful or not. When you are in a place of emotional adulthood, which I hope I am, okay, that means I'm taking responsibility for what happens. Now, moving into this topic, someone asked me, do I have a passion for podcasting? No, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a passion for podcasting. What I do have a passion for is helping you and helping me become a better coach. So there's an episode called How to Find Your Passion or Not. I don't necessarily agree with this whole passion concept. What I do agree with is something what I kind of dubbed passionating, which is the journey that you go on as you find or go after what you think might be a passion. And that, my friends, is where the amazingness happens in the journey. Okay. Now, number 11, I had to believe, in order to do this, I had to believe that people are listening, which goes into the concept of a belief plan. I think this is one of my most listened to episodes, belief plans. Okay. It is just as important as having a plan about the actions you're going to take. It is just as important about having a plan about the time you're going to take. Okay. So go check out the episodes around goal setting. There's a 3-part series towards the beginning of all my podcasts about goal setting. You need to go listen to the episode that talks about belief plans. You've got to believe that something is going to occur in order to continue to put time, money, and energy toward it. Have a belief plan. I also had to reflect a lot as I've gone on this journey. I had to take a bunch of strategic pauses from recording in order to decide what to record. Every 6 months or so, or every quarter really at this point, I take a strategic pause. What episodes are most listened to? What do people want? Okay, so there is a huge importance in taking the strategic pause. All right, so in order to create anything in your life, you have to pause and reflect so that then you can move into the future. The past is a teacher, but it is not a fortune teller, but it teaches you a lot of things. It does not teach you what you can or cannot do in the future. Only your future can tell you that. But you can gather information and data from the past in order to help you move into the future. So strategic pauses are very, very, very important in the creation of anything. So there is an episode about strategic pauses. There's also a lot of episodes on how to make any decision making. Okay. So the episode specifically on deciding from abundance, I really had to decide from abundance because producing this podcast, my friends, it costs me not in time or in brain power, but in money. It costs me $1,500 at least each month. Okay. You may be surprised about that, but it costs me $1,500 each month. And that is a decision. I continue to decide to continue to create podcasts. And that's a decision from abundance. So from the belief that I have plenty of money in my business to dedicate to podcast production. But I'll be honest, there are sometimes I'm like, should I really continue to do this? Yes, because I think it provides you with tremendous value. I think it provides you with tremendous value. Which leads me to the power of a business plan. There is huge power in creating a business plan. Okay. And I talked about that in an episode that was about what you're going to do differently next year. Okay. I talk about that a lot when I say, what happens when you get a grip on your business episode. I talk about business plans when I discuss separating out how your priorities differ from your plan and your schedule, and how you can combine planning and scheduling to move forward. There's an episode on that. Business plan plays a huge role in me continuing to record the podcast. It is part of my business plan. Okay. Because I want to continue to give you value. In my business plan, one of my core values is providing value. So that's why I keep doing this, which leads me to my 15th point, which is the power of priorities. Okay. And to plan and to schedule. This, I had to really zoom in on focusing on the podcast. It's part of my daily and it was part of my weekly big three. I'm sure you've heard me talk about daily and weekly big threes, especially in some recent episodes. This podcast is part of my weekly big three. What's part of your weekly big three? What's something that's a priority for you that you might have a little resistance to that you want to continue to do on a weekly basis? Go listen to the episode where I talk about life before and after using the full focus system with Sarah and Cindy. Okay. See how they have figured out what their priorities are and how they've chosen to focus on them. Look at the episode on how the full focus planner system will change the way you live and work. Again, another one. Okay, here's the 16th concept that has helped me continue to help you. Examining all the options. Okay, so my concept on examining all the options. I could choose not to do this. I could choose to do this. I could choose from millions of topics to talk about. I think it's super important to, in that strategic pause, examine all of your options. We don't do this enough. We just kind of put on our, you know, blinders, right? And we don't look at all of our options. But there are so many options, and it is worth taking the time and giving yourself the permission. There's another episode on giving yourself permission to decide what decision you're going to make based on all the options. Okay? So check out the episode on all of the options. All right. And that's kind of part of the how to decide, implement, and evaluate. Next, kind of switching gears a little bit, giving every dollar a job. Going back to this is costing me at least $1,500 a month, but I am giving those dollars the job to provide you with amazing content. That is the job of those dollars. And I think when we own businesses and even in our personal lives, we need to be giving every dollar a job. Okay. If we give every dollar a job, our lives are going to be so much fuller. We're going to be able to decide what we want to spend on right now and what we want to save for. So go listen to the episodes on guilt-free spending on yourself, the episode on anxiety-free wealth. Okay. And if this is something giving every dollar a job that you are interested in, I now have actually an offering I call money confidence coaching, where I help you give every dollar a job. You can find that on my Work With Me page. Okay. You also can find on my Work With Me page the full focus coaching, which is going to help you do this next thing, number 18, move from stuck stress to productive or progressive stress. Okay. So I can get myself into some stuck stress, like I don't know what to record, but that doesn't help me access my genius brain. Right? It doesn't help you either if I'm in stuck stress. So I have learned how to move into progression stress. And that is a skill that I think everybody needs to know how to do. It is work worth doing. Okay. It is work worth doing. So there's a couple episodes on that. One of them literally says how to move from stuck stress to progression stress. And the other one is a part one of a two-part series, which I can't find the title of. It's part one of a two-part series about, I think, overcoming overwhelm. Okay. Moving on to number 19, confidence, the willingness to feel any feeling. The more vulnerable you are, the more confidence you have. Okay. So listen to the episode on choosing how you feel. Listen to the episode called Creating Your Own Confidence. Okay. Listen to the episode about vulnerability versus confidence. I have had to be super vulnerable, my friends, in this. I have shared with you some things that probably some of the people, some people that maybe I've talked about don't even know that I've been sharing. Okay. But I think that's what draws us closer. The more vulnerable I am, the more confident I become, and the more I can help you grow. Being vulnerable, I think, is the most powerful thing that we have as humans. Okay. And I think really in life, when we talk about friendships, I want you to really consider who are the handful of friends, or maybe one or two friends that you are not related to, that you can be the most vulnerable with. So, a couple weeks ago, it was a Friday night and we weren't doing much. And so, kind of like we always do, or frequently do, we texted a few neighbors and said, does anyone want to? We call it sometimes, does anyone want a patio? Does anyone want to sit around the fire pit? And over marched a handful of our neighbors. And I have known these neighbors since we moved to Indiana in 2000. And we moved to the street we live on, the same old street. We're still living here. And I was walking around the block 9 months pregnant. And I met some of our really good neighbors. So if you're listening, that's you. And they are some people that I can be really vulnerable with. And I like cherish that ability. And I also have some friends that don't live here that you've heard me talk about on this podcast that I can be super vulnerable with. And I mean, I can almost cry talking about it, but I so value those friendships. So after that night a few weeks ago at the fire pit, I got in my bed and I honestly will admit I had had a drink or two. And I texted my very far away friend and I said, I just want you to know that my ability to be vulnerable with you helps me grow as a person and gives me more and more confidence to be who I really want to be. So think about that. Who can you be vulnerable with? Who are those people? Give them a shout out. Let them know. Okay, moving on to number 20. We are almost at 25, but number 20, creating your own luck. Okay, this is something again through this podcast journey that I have had to self coach on. Okay, so I've asked myself a lot of times, if as a good business owner should, I think, how do I grow my business? And one way to grow my own business is to have more people know about what I'm doing. How do I let more people know about what I'm doing? I mean, social media is one thing, but it's not the end all be all, right? I think when people can actually hear my message, that's when I grow. So I have had to create some of my own luck, and I have now guested on almost 25 podcasts. So if you want to hear me on other podcasts, just search it in your podcast finder and you will hear me on other podcasts. That's a way I've been creating my own luck. Okay. So I am so happy if you have found me through listening to another podcast that I was guesting on, because that luck, I guess, is working for both of us. So go listen to my episode on creating your own luck. All right, 21. I really, really, really had to at times add some fun into this podcast production creation process. So, as I love to say, how can we make this simple, doable, and fun? So, how could I make this podcast process simple, doable, and fun? Part of my fun is sometimes recording it in places that maybe I shouldn't be recording it, but just to give myself a little bit of a change up of scenery. So, there's an episode, How to Make Things Simple, Doable, and Fun. How do you make things simple, doable, and fun? I think the simple and the doable sometimes are harder than the fun because our brain likes to complicate things. In fact, I am a great person to complicate things, but I have worked hard to make this process simple, doable, and fun. Again, that kind of goes back a little bit to delegating and eliminating and doing the correct planning. Okay, but the fun part, sometimes it's where I record, sometimes it's the topic, sometimes it's thinking about client stories to share with you. Okay, so simple, doable, and fun. Here's number 22, not going it alone. Okay. The power of not going it alone. I definitely do not go it alone in creating 100 episodes and my goal to create 100 more. I don't go it alone. I learned long ago that that does not make it simple, doable, and fun. And I have surrounded myself with people to help me do this. And these are people who love to set goals too. Okay. So, my online business manager, Linda, there's an episode about what an online business manager does. Go listen to that. She's someone I've surrounded myself with. Stacy, my podcast producer, she's someone I've surrounded myself with. My own coach, another Stacy, I have a lot of Stacys. She's someone I've surrounded myself with, as well as some of the online coaches that I follow. These people are part of my tribe. I'm in a mastermind. Okay. The power of all of this, of not going it alone, ah, it is life changing. It is life changing. So there's an episode, Don't Go It Alone. Why being part of a group program supports your growth. I'm in a group program. I'm a believer of that. I've learned that lesson and I want you to have that lesson too. Okay, 23. Life is 50-50. Okay. 50% of life feels positive, 50% feels negative. 50% of recording a podcast each week feels positive, 50% feels negative. Okay. I've had to work through these emotions. There's an episode, How to Work Through Emotions. Had to work through those emotions that aren't so amazing all the time. Okay. They've helped me create confidence, but they've also helped me realize that this is the life we live. This is part of our human experience. And actually, it's pretty amazing. Okay. And every feeling I do want, all the 50 positive percent I want, it is available to me right now. It is just a matter of me controlling my own thinking. The second episode I ever recorded, I called Control Your Thinking. Okay. And that's really helped me move into this 50-50 paradigm and being okay with it. Being okay with life being 50-50. Are you okay with it? I want to know. I want to know. Okay. 24, the work worth doing. This work that I am doing with you, it helps me every day do this work on myself. It helps me be better so I can help you be better. It helps me be better so I can be better for me and like live a more fulfilled life. So there is a difference between doing work and doing the work that's worth doing. That is one of my most recent episodes that I beg you to go listen to. Listen to the episode that I recorded with some of my clients. Listen to the episode I recorded with Monday West. Listen to the episode I recorded with Whitney. Listen to my episode I recorded with Michelle. Listen to the episode that I recorded with Jesse and Sherry. All of them, Veronica. Okay. They all mention some way, shape, or form that there is work worth doing. I want you to be someone who does the work worth doing so that your life becomes even better than it is right now. And here's the last thing. And this kind of goes back to when my first idea for this podcast was what are some Andrea isms? And the first one I wrote down, and this is what I'm going to end with today, is the phrase, and that's okay. So, my friends, when you have a thought that maybe you're not in love with, maybe things aren't going as the way you planned. You know what? They're not going the way you planned, and that's okay. Maybe you're in a place where you're wondering, my business is viable, but I just don't know if I'm going to ever grow it or how I'm going to scale it. Guess what? You're working on it. It's a work in progress. You're not there yet, and that's okay. I'm here to help you. Maybe you're in a relationship that doesn't feel great with your spouse or your child or your mother or your coworker or your boss or with yourself. What's your relationship with yourself? It may not feel amazing right now, and that's okay. You do have the power to change it. Whatever is happening in life, it's okay. And how do I know it's okay? Because it's what's happening in life. This is different than it is what it is. This is a lot different. It is what it is, I think sometimes has a little bit of, I'm going to give up, or I'm going to try not to think about it anymore. And that's okay is not about giving up. It is not about not wanting to think about it anymore. It's about trying to make you yourself a better person. It's about you trying to create a life that you loved, about you trying to create a business you love. When I first started coaching, not when I first started the podcast, but when I first started coaching, my original idea, I had a couple. One was to work with women who were married to doctors. One was to work with stay-at-home moms that wanted to get back into the workforce. One was to work with business owners, women business owners. One was to work with corporations. One was to not do any coaching and just do speaking. All of those things rolled around in my head for a good year, and I actually did all those things. And that's okay. I didn't need to know right then and there how my business was going to evolve. But now it is evolved. And I really primarily work with women. And I primarily work with women who own or run a business or a part of a business. And I still help women who are in a corporate setting, and that's okay. And I still help women who aren't even in business or aren't working, and that's okay. But it is okay that I have a preference, so to speak. Okay. It's okay. All of these things are okay. I don't have to have it nailed down even now, even 4 years into this business. I'm still in the process of evolving. I'm still on my journey. I'm thinking I'm getting closer and closer to really figuring it all out, but I'm in the process, and that's okay. And sometimes this process still, to me, this day doesn't feel so great. And I question everything I'm doing. Am I doing it right? Am I doing enough? Am I doing it too much? Am I doing too little? Am I providing value? Am I providing the right value? Am I being a good mom? Am I being a good spouse? Am I being a good daughter? Am I being a good friend? I'm not sure, and that's okay. Because all of what I'm doing or not doing, or thinking or not thinking, or feeling or not feeling, it is all part of the human experience, and that's okay. It's really okay. You're going to be okay. You always are. You're going to figure it out because guess what? You always do. But having someone along the journey with you, even if you just hear my voice on a podcast, even if we've never met in person, even if I've never coached you live, I'm here to help you. I'm here to make your human experience an even better one, to make your life even better, to make your business even better. And hopefully that has a trickle down effect and it helps your spouse and your family and your coworkers and the people you serve, your clients. Hopefully I'm helping make their lives better too. We're all in this journey together, and that's okay. We're all figuring it out. But I just think it's way more fun to figure it out with someone than to figure it out alone. You can go far, you can go fast, but you can go farther faster if you do it with someone. And I would love to continue to be that person doing it with you for the next 100 episodes. Okay, my friends, it is truly an honor to be here with you each week. Who is your coach? If you don't have one, live and in person, if you don't have one, I would be honored to be that person. I work with women and provide life coaching, business coaching, helping them manage their money, helping them get focused, all of it. And I would love to be your coach. Who's your coach? If you don't have a coach, maybe this 100th episode will spur you on to give yourself that gift so that you can live a life that you love and have a business or career that you love. Let's do it. Remember, now is the time. It is time to level up. There's never been a better time. You don't need to wait for anything else. That's why the title or the name of this podcast is Time to Level Up. Let's do it together. Big hugs, my friends. I will see you on episode 101. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Time to Level Up podcast with me, your host, Andrea Liebross. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to this episode, I encourage you to take a screenshot and share it with them. Okay, now what about you? You've listened to the podcast, and if you now know that you're ready to upgrade your life, upgrade your business, upgrade you, then stop being only a listener and start being a liver, living that upgraded life. Head over to my website and schedule a call. Right there on that call, we'll start changing the way you think and act so that you can have the freedom to achieve the impossible in life and business and have the resources to do it. You deserve an upgrade. Let's do it.